She's not what you'd expect. She's tough and feisty, but gentle and tender. She makes millions and gives millions to the poor. She cries, she laughs, she teaches, she comforts. This is the Dani Johnson Show.
Do you have a financial goal and there seems to be a financial roadblock, detour, or giant cliff that seems to be in front of you and you're not able to break through and get over that thing? Listen, today is such a perfect day for you and I to talk about money. Hi, I'm Dani Johnson. Welcome to the Dani Johnson Show. We're here every day of the week bringing you fresh, new content filled with tips for business, for finance, and relationships so that you can have the success that you want. And once a week, we also have a spiritual focus. Spiritual life is a very important thing to keep healthy and refreshed, as well as to keep focused, because then you can tackle things like fear, worry, guilt, shame, bitterness, unforgiveness, things of those natures that actually stop your income from growing. Yes, it actually does. But today we're actually going to have a financial focus, because I know that you do not want to end up like 98% of the population who ends up dead or dead broke at the age of 65, dependent on your family, friends, and federal government for your main source of income. That cannot be your destiny. And here on this show every day, we're talking about success. We're talking about you defining success for you, because there's a destiny calling out to you. Part of that destiny has something to do with money. Money is a great, powerful tool. When we don't have enough of it, oh boy, do we worry and fear and lose sleep and even get depressed. When we have too much of it, we seem to get kind of stupid, nuts, and crazy and go a little bit hog wild in areas that maybe we shouldn't. The tool of money can be used to build houses for the poor, or it can be used to buy drugs. Money itself is not evil and is not necessarily good. It's simply just like a piece of paper, like the one that I'm holding. It's a tool. This paper is written down with notes so that you and I can have a good, healthy conversation today. It's just a tool. It's not evil. It's not good. It's not bad. It is what it is. It's a piece of paper. Money is the same way. How we choose to use money in our lives really, really, really determines the amount of stress that we decide to invite into our lives, determines the amount of harmony that we can have in our lives. Also, purpose. Money can be put to a great purpose, or it can be put to the purpose of self-destruction. Myself, I grew up in a house where my parents were my stepfather and my mother. I have to differentiate that because I grew up with a man that I thought was my dad until I was 17 and a half and pregnant with my first child is when I found out that he wasn't, that there was this huge lie that my family had kept under the rug for a really long time until one day my aunt told me that the man that raised me wasn't my dad. And to be quite honest with you, I was happy that he wasn't. I was happy that his blood was not in my veins. I met my biological father when I was 18. He was from Managua, Nicaragua. Which was a shock because the man I grew up with was white skin, light hair, light eyes. Nonetheless, it has nothing to do with finances other than this. I was raised on welfare. There was always fighting about money. Dinner oftentimes would be Wonder Bread with margarine and garlic salt. Ugh. Disgusting. And why? Because drugs were more important for my parents' purchasing than it was food. And so, and their lifestyle was a partying lifestyle. It was complete irresponsibility. And so therefore I learned complete responsibility. I grew up in an environment that didn't value money, but instead kind of blew it flippantly. Even when my mom broke her neck when I was 11, by the time I was 14, my mom had gotten a settlement because of being wrongfully treated by the doctors. And they used her as a guinea pig without consulting her first. And she ended up paralyzed from the neck down. But that changed our financial situation. So at 14, we're living in a 3,300 square foot house from an 800 square foot house. Now my parents not only have one car that, used to have a rust spot on the outside, the windshield wipers didn't work. It was a gas guzzler. Now they had 4 cars and only, 2 drivers. Not even 2, 1 driver. My dad was the only one that could drive. My mom couldn't drive. She was handicapped. So all of a sudden money comes in and now it's steak instead of just pasta. And it was like steak every night for months on end. I don't even like that stuff. But obviously happy that there was food on the table. It went from, not having sodas to having every kind of soda you can imagine and lots of desserts. And both my parents ballooned up and gained a lot of weight from this money, this tool of money that they ate. And they absorbed into stuff, clothes and diamonds and cars and land and houses. And this is just the way that they live their life. So again, I learned that. That's the environment I grew up in. And that's actually most of the environment that most people grow up in. Most of us are not raised by parents who are teaching us financial wisdom, not teaching us the difference between wise and foolish spending, but instead showing us their example of spend, fight over not having enough, get a bonus, get your tax return, blow it on something silly, instead of planning for the future. I know, planning for the future sounds so boring, doesn't it? But it's so wise. So wise. Being debt-free, wise. Not fun, but wise. And at the end of the day, wisdom will reduce your stress. Wisdom will reduce your stress, especially in the financial area. So we're going to uncover and talk about greed. What does greed look like in today's society? It's really sneaky, by the way. I was completely lassoed around the neck, friend. Seriously, it's like I had a noose around my neck and the title on that rope was called Greed, and I didn't even know it. I did not even have a clue that I was greedy. I was a giver. I gave to my church. I gave to my friends. I bought lots of gifts for my friends. But see, greed really has nothing to do with money. It has everything to do with the heart. What was the motives behind me buying cruises for my friends and buying expensive gifts for my family and for some of my other friends or my coworkers? What was the real main reason, my motive for having this 6,000 square foot house and the giant pool and the tennis court and the slide for the pool? I mean, what was the motive of always picking up the tab whenever we would all go out to dinner, a big group of 20 of us? Why would I always want to pick that tab up? What was the motive? You see, on the outside, I looked really generous, but the fact was, greed was my motivator. It was. Greed was my motivator. I know you're having a hard time connecting that. But as we dive into this, I want you to look at your financial motives. Why? Because I want to see you succeed financially. I want you to become financially independent. You know you want to become financially independent. You don't want to spend the rest of your life worried about money. You don't want to spend the rest of your life worried about how you're going to pay for this, how you're going to pay for the kids' dental, how are you going to pay for the kids' soccer, how are you going to pay for the daughter's wedding that's going to happen in the next 2 years, how are you going to pay for the kids' college. You should not be spending your life thinking about money. You shouldn't be setting up your life worrying and fearful about not having enough. You also shouldn't spend your whole life working for it, like chasing it. A common opinion today is that the wealthy are greedy. But man, I know the contrary. I'm about to go on a trip down to Nicaragua with the extreme poor. My whole business is set up to give to the poor. I don't draw a salary from my business. I don't draw a salary. I don't get paid to do anything. I'm not being paid to do the show. I don't get paid to speak at First Step Success or Creating a Dynasty. Every single book that we have, every dollar that is collected from the books goes straight to providing the staff with their needs, providing jobs, and then giving the rest to the poor. And of course, the IRS gets their cut too. But between those three sources, and I'm not one of the places that pulls from this, but I'm heading to Nicaragua here really soon. And I'm actually joining me a man that is worth tens of millions of dollars, could be over $100 million. Okay, incredibly wealthy, incredibly successful. We're about the same age. He's coming to Nicaragua with me to check on this project of taking care of the poor and building houses for the poor. He's bringing his business partner, who too is incredibly wealthy, incredibly successful. These guys love God. This one gentleman, he has 6 children, beautiful wife, wonderful family, successful in real estate. One of these days, I'm hopefully going to get him to come and speak to you at Creating a Dynasty or something. But here, when you look at this ultra wealthy man, he has a heart for the poor. He wants to take care of the poor. He wants to put sustainability projects in for the poor. So, and I can't tell you how many wealthy I've met who are just like that they actually have a burning desire to kill poverty around the world. But yet there's a middle class out there that doesn't think about the poor. They could care less about the poor. They think about themselves. They think about getting new expensive shoes for their kids. They think about making sure their kids are in violin, piano, and dance all at the same time. They want to make sure that their kids have expensive clothes so it makes them look good. The middle class who, hogwash, if I don't want to see another starving kid on TV, it's just a scam. They don't even have the ears to hear the poor. We also are under the opinion that the poor are not greedy. Well, I got to tell you, my parents were poor and greedy. They were. The definition of greed is being insatiable. You are never satisfied. That's the true definition of greed, that you are never satisfied with what you make. Whether you make $100,000 a month and you're not satisfied, that's greed. You make $100 a month and you're never satisfied, this is greed. Worrying about it all the time, talking about money all the time, whether it's I don't have the money, we can't afford it, if only I had some money. Greed is on your head. This is a form of idolatry. We have to crush greed in order for you to become successful financially. But I want to hear from you what your opinion is. What does greed look like to you? And has it touched your life? That's the real question, because it certainly touched mine, and I have to protect myself from it. So going over to Kibi Whitehead from Lexington, North Carolina. Welcome to the Dani Johnson Show. So what's your definition of greed?
Well, hi, Dani. Thank you for having me. And my definition is really taking what's not yours, what's not earned. I believe that God wants to bless the work you do in all areas of your life, spiritually, financially, mentally, and physically. But as far as financially, that, we go work for what we get, and it's not because someone's rich that they're greedy. So I disagree with just because you're rich, you're greedy.
Yep.
I've seen, poor people greedy, middle class, or people who, and what have I learned from it? Well, when I thought about money, wanted to make more, it's not about earning money, it's about keeping money.
Yeah.
And, so I've learned a lot from you. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so Kibi, let me ask you a question. When you say taking something that is not yours, I believe that coveting is greed. It's the same root. It's when you're not satisfied with what you have, you're not satisfied with your job, you're not satisfied with your income, you're not satisfied with your body, you're not satisfied with your husband, you're not satisfied with your wife, you're not satisfied with your kids, you're not satisfied with your food. People order food all the time eating out, and then they complain about the food that they just bought, right? This is all greed, and that's coveting. It's like wanting what somebody else has, but not willing to pay the price that somebody else did in order to get it. And what I mean by pay the price, I'm not saying sacrifice your life, meaning they were willing to learn, they were willing to work, they were willing to give it their best shot, they were willing to grow, they were willing to fill in the blanks that were there and find solutions to problems. I agree with you. Trying to get something that doesn't belong to you is the definite form of greed. This is Dani Johnson. We'll continue with more after this.
Did you know you can see Dani Johnson live and in person? Go to DaniJohnson.com and find out about our next live event. First steps to success. Register today. Call 866-760-8255 or go to DaniJohnson.com/FSTS.
Friend, you know me. You know how passionate I am about my faith and the land of Israel. I'm so excited to tell you about something directly from the Holy Land. A good friend in Israel has teamed up with a good friend here in the U.S. to bring an incredible product that harnesses the healing power of the Dead Sea. Have you heard about Mud Zero? Face it, we may not like to talk about it, but some of us need help with removing unwanted hair, especially in unwanted places. Mud Zero is a solution for all skin types for men and women. Rub the mask on your skin, let it sit for 5 minutes, wipe it off, and you have smooth skin without the irritation. Then follow it up with a Depi lotion daily to reduce hair growth by up to 50%. Best of all, you can feel good knowing that over 10% of the profits goes directly to King's Ransom to feed the orphan and the widow. Go right now to mudzero.com and take advantage of an introductory offer they've created just for us. mudzero.com. Imagine living in a decrepit, unsafe hovel made of waste material on top of old mining tunnels that could explode and sink your home at any moment. Imagine no water to drink, no safe place to raise your children, no food for your starving baby. Imagine that your kids can't learn to read because they have to work to support the family instead of going to school. Could you imagine living in that kind of fear and hopelessness? This is exactly what families are dealing with in the poverty-stricken village of Santa Pancha, Nicaragua. These families can barely meet their basic food, water, and housing needs. We are transforming that village. Be a part of this miracle. I want you to go to the website now and learn how you can help. Go to kingsransom.org and click on Santa Pancha. There you can join with other warriors against poverty and help bring a miraculous transformation to Santa Pancha. That's kingsransom.org, kingsransom.org.
What multimillionaire do you know that volunteers their time to help ordinary people like you and me? There's only one. It's the Dani Johnson Show.
It's my money and I can do whatever I want with it. You know, that is something I hear often and mostly from the 98% part of the population. It's my money. Don't you tell me what to do with it. Okay, well, friend, if you allow your money to do what everyone else is doing with their money, you're going to end up broke like everybody else. 98% of dead or dead broke at 65. That's not your calling. That is not your assignment in life. It is not, your assignment in life is not to worry about money and be broke all the time and be in need. You're not supposed to be in that bucket, if you will. That's not supposed to be your population. 2% of the population will be financially independent. And that actually does not mean rich. That means that you are well taken care of, that you've secured something for yourself, and you can learn how to do that. It means that you're not in debt. You're not covered with that debt. It means that you have at least a year's worth of income set aside, that in the event that A, you need to take a rest, or B, somebody gets sick, that you have income set there and you don't have to worry and fret and lose sleep over it. But greed is something that is very, very prominent in our culture today. I would like to know what you think about greed. How do you feel it has penetrated our country? How it is penetrating our kids? What does it look like in our lives today so that we can keep ourselves on a better path of great success? You want financial success? You have to learn how to be frugal. You want to have financial success? You have to learn how to budget. You want to be successful financially and go towards financial independence? Don't just focus on trying to make a lot of money. Because what you make, you spend. And that's a habit that has to be quenched. You have to learn how to keep money and then learn how to turn money into your slave. And that's what we're talking about today. So Tracey Jones from Sacramento, California, some of my old stomping grounds. Used to fly out of that airport every month. Tracey, it's a great little airport. Tracey, tell me, how do you think greed is affecting our culture today? How is it affecting our kids? What does it look like to you?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me, Dani. It's my pleasure to be able to even talk with you. I think greed is very hard to detect. I think greed is so prevalent now that sometimes we can't see through it because it's so disguised.
Yep.
Okay, I do believe in having money if you work for it and have as much as you possibly can earn. But I don't believe in every sort of motive to gain money. Like if you're unscrupulous or you're not principled in how you go about getting money, that's what I consider greed.
Yeah.
Like at any means necessary.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no question about that. So when you say that it's disguised, give me another example of greed being disguised in today's world.
I just feel like it's going on everywhere. Like it's like if you go to a car dealership and you want to buy a car, and that car dealer knows that the car that you're purchasing is a piece of junk, but he's going to put money ahead of your own interests.
Yeah,
that's greed right there.
Yeah, that's true. That's self-serving. So basically,
self-serving. Exactly.
Yeah,
money above principle.
Yeah, absolutely. Or even work above principle. I was having a discussion with somebody yesterday about this. Priorities are really important. That's one way to keep greed at bay. Is many years ago, I had a massive greed problem, and it resulted in a heart attack and a nervous breakdown at 24 and 25. And I sacrificed my marriage. I sacrificed my kids. I sacrificed my health, all for money. And it was all about success. And it was all about, keeping up with my last year's track record. I had paid cash for a Mercedes last year, so now I got to pay cash for another one this year. I bought a house, now I got to buy another one. Just to keep up this game. And I don't even know why I was doing it, to be honest with you, but I was killing myself and killing the relationships in my life. And so what I had somebody teach me was about priorities and keeping my priorities straight, that God needed to be first. Well, if you're serving God first, that means you got to treat people well. That means you have to treat people with honor and respect. That means that you have to be honorable and honest with them. That means that you have to do what is right for them and not just think of yourself and do what's right for you. So putting God first. Second was my husband. He wasn't even on my priority list. It made perfect sense why that was the most stressed relationship in my life. Third was the kids. Fourth was work. Well, I thought God was first in my life because I went to church. I thought God was first in my life because I tithed. I thought God was first in my life because I prayed for 2 hours every morning before I started my day. So I had been totally deceived that because I read the Bible and because I prayed, then that meant God was first in my life. Furthest thing from the truth. I was cussing out my husband every day. I was asking him to leave. I was writing him hate letters every single day. I was putting him down, slicing him up with my mouth. That meant God was not first in my life. But what was really first in my life was business. And business was controlling me, money was controlling me, and it was devouring my entire life. Yes, bad news. This is Dani Johnson. We'll continue with more after this.
Dani will be back with more expert business, money, and relationship advice to help you live the uncommon life. This is the Dani Johnson Show.
The whole story of how I went from homeless to millions is right here in this book, First Steps to Wealth. I'd love to give you a free copy of this book. Just dial 888-757-8880. You can get your free copy of this book. It's like a real book, my friend. You can get an ebook copy for free right now, or if you'd like to pay the shipping to get this $15 book to your house, I'd be happy to send it to you. 888-757-8880. Get your copy of First Steps to Wealth today and begin on a brand new path of some great success.
This is the Dani Johnson Show.
Greed is a never-ending cycle that keeps you unsatisfied, no matter how hard you work, no matter how much you push, no matter how big the goal is that you achieve. You end up buying everything you possibly can, getting tons of recognition, or at least you think you are, and you just feel empty inside. Hi, I'm Dani Johnson. Welcome to the Dani Johnson Daily Show, where we talk about success, true success. The reality of success, the price of success. I know that you have a destiny calling out to you. There's a calling on your life and you want to do something great with your life. But there are things that cause us to get off track. This is why we have to redefine success for you, as I have to redefine success for me and define it for me. Not let society define it for me, because if I were to listen to society, I would be divorced again. I would be a disaster in every way. I would have no children, and I would have no life. I probably would be an alcoholic. Yep, pretty much, or dead, one or the other. Because success, according to society, says sacrifice everything in order to get money. And then when you get that money, you're still not satisfied. Broken hearts, toxic relationships, dissatisfied, and trying to medicate yourself, whether it's drug or alcohol or pornography or illicit sex or whatever it is. This is not the way you want to live your life. This is not why you're on this planet. You're supposed to do something great with your life. You're supposed to be used for a powerful purpose. And sometimes money can choke out your purpose. Isn't it interesting how it controls our life? It's really prominent in our society, and we've got to be aware. We have to be aware to not get sucked up into it. Rachel Moreau from Lake Charles, Louisiana joins us now. What is your opinion about greed? What's your personal definition of it?
Hi, Dani. Thank you for having me on your show. For me, in my life, it's been really something that I've put my identity in, and I've noticed just like growing up, just from our family being so into like the cars that we drove and all these things, and like my image at school. And I know growing up, from like age 16, I had like this Camaro SS, and I had the nicest car at school. But yet I was really always so empty inside, and I felt like really insecure and just was anxious around people. But yet I felt like I had like achieved something, or like it's been like an intense self-focus, and thinking that it's okay not to honor people in shyness, really. because like you've achieved something in this other area or something. It's just an emptiness, a place of just putting my identity in the wrong place. And yeah, it's just this unsatisfying feeling and just always striving. It's created performing in my life. And yeah, it's just God's been delivering me from that and turning that around.
Amen. Now, this is interesting. I love your transparency, first of all, but you're saying your identity was in money. Your identity was in stuff. So
Yes, ma'am.
you would trick yourself into feeling significant, right?
Yes, ma'am.
By purchasing things.
Right. Just like the clothes that I had, or just my image, you know. It's just being focused on image. And it's also, growing up, just created me being lazy too, never working, because just kind of my parents kind of bought my love. Or my dad worked a lot, but we had a trucking company, and it was just, we all looked good on the outside, but it's just emptiness on the inside. And,
I want you, Rachel, to like kind of, I want you to shine the flashlight in what emptiness actually looks and feels like.
It's just worthlessness. You're just searching for approval, really.
Yeah.
But scared to, you know that there's something wrong, but you just hold up facades like as a protection shield, really, for yourself.
Yeah. What brought you to this revelation that that's how you were living your life?
Well, honestly, it was you, Dani. Over the last year and a half, one night I was like listening to War on Debt. We got the program, and it was like midnight or so, and I was listening to it and stayed up late, and God just really convicted me, and I just started bawling my eyes out, listening to your story of how God delivered you from greed and like the downsizing of your house, and talking about like multiple cars and all that stuff. And I don't know, I just felt like God, just like the Holy Spirit told me, like, sell your Camaro. Like, it was just, and I just started crying. I was just, I don't know, from there, and then I talked to my dad about it, which in my family, he really didn't want to sell it.
Yeah.
And funny thing, like about a year later or so, God just really took the car from me. I got in a head-on collision with it, and God protected me in it, but I felt like this weight come off of me.
Yes.
Just, I felt free just from that, and just, I don't know, every day I just kind of, I see an opportunity not to care about like what I'm wearing and all that, and I'm not, I didn't go like and become sloppy or anything on the other end of it, but just not caring, just wearing whatever I want to wear and not living under people's opinions. Yes. And it's just, I'm finally starting to be able to see myself, and God's just like delivering me from that. It's just, it's been a process of just like cleansing over the last year.
Yes, yes. That's exactly how it worked for me too. Rachel, it really did. Like, you know, I remember, and you know what's so weird is that we have these thoughts that go through our head, and we're so busy with our lives that we're not even stopping to think about what we're thinking about. Or just even that question, and like what you're talking about with what's on War on Debt, right? And it's that story of, who is this all for? I am so grateful for that day. I will never, ever, ever forget it. I will never forget it. Who is this all for? And I had this picture of the house. I was sitting in my huge house, but who's this all for? And I was like, gosh, it's not for my kids. They don't need this to be happy. It's not for my husband, man. He could be barefoot in, you know, living in a coffee shack in Hawaii because he grew up in Hawaii. He'd be totally satisfied with that. Then who is this all for? And I was like, I totally convinced myself that it was for God, that my big giant house and all of the money that I spent to show everyone how successful I was, that somehow made God look good. But it didn't make God look good. And I knew it was him asking me that question. That was such a powerful moment to have the reality check of, who is this really all about? And it was about me.
Yeah.
It was about me. And the size of my house was the size of my ego, man. You know, I had the biggest house out of everyone that knew us, you know. No one else had ever had a house that big. No one ever grew up in a house that big. And no one in my family ever had a house that big. It was like, what am I trying to prove?
Right.
You know? And then there was just nothing but pressure. Straight up pressure. Now, it's interesting, you said you felt like God told you to sell that Camaro. and he didn't do it. Now, isn't that interesting that you had a wrestling match inside of you going, I can't sell that. I can't sell that. Isn't it weird how we can choose to be attached to a thing instead of obeying God? And I knew that when God told us to sell that big monster house, I knew that if we didn't sell it, we were going to lose it. I knew that. It was crystal clear. I'm like, I'd much rather willingly obey than to be spanked later and lose it anyway. I knew deep inside my soul, I knew it. And sure enough, I was then diagnosed with a heart condition, couldn't work anymore. I mean, it took my income away, which was between $750,000 and $1 million a year. So without my income, that house was over. So it's like, obey and be blessed by obeying, or have it taken from you. So much more painful to have something taken away from you. But now that you're on the other side, it was taken away from you. You're like, it's a relief.
So free.
Yep.
Free.
Yep. You're not defined by your stupid car. You're not defined by your freaking clothes. You're not defined by the house you live in. I'm so proud of you. Absolutely so proud of you. We have Alicia from Mercado from Waller, Texas. Welcome to the show. What are your thoughts about greed?
Well, I have a similar story of chasing success and wanting more and more and more, getting a second degree after I already had one, cars, house. The house wasn't good enough. We bought more property. And we were in complete debt and never making enough, that empty feeling, and we ended up
Are you there? Did we lose you? Did you mute yourself? I can't hear you. I know if you were crying, I would hear you crying.
Hello?
There you are.
Okay.
You ended up.
I was sharing my story, and I guess then you were like, "Are you there?"
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you hear any of it? No.
You just said you had everything, and that's where somehow maybe your phone got muted or whatever.
So we had 2 degrees, car, house, property.
Yep.
Just wanting more and more and more,
Yep.
and we had in that time we had a son that was sick and passed away, and we lost everything.
Wow.
And then we started coming to you. I kind of learned the lesson, but my husband didn't. Yeah. He was the...
Hold on right there, because I know exactly what you lived through. I know exactly, because the same thing happened with my husband. Like, God taught me first. For some reason, I break easier than he does. He was more of the rebellious one, and so he's like, that means you had to go through it twice. So awesome. This is Dani Johnson. We'll continue with more and catch the rest of that story right after this.
Did you know you can see Dani Johnson live and in person? Go to DaniJohnson.com and find out about our next live event. First steps to success. Register today. Call 866-760-8255 or go to DaniJohnson.com/FSTS.
I just heard this amazing story. One of our clients had written us telling us that they had used job domination and unlimited success and has absolutely exploded their career. He said, Dani, I don't know where I'd be today without job domination and unlimited success. Listen, do you want more recognition from your coworkers? Do you want to be recommended to people all over the world? Do you want to be somebody that is highly sought after? Listen, if you're in a dead-end place where this gentleman found himself, but then learned new strategies and changed everything in his work life, and obviously this has resulted in higher bonuses and pay raises, you're next. 888-757-8880. Get your copy of Job Domination right now. 888-757-8880. Again, 888-757-8880. Job domination. That's what you need. It's time for you to dominate the job market and break through the rut that you're in.
The way you look at things is about to change. It's the Dani Johnson Show.
Sometimes you and your partner in business or in life or your spouse or whatever are just not on the same page. Sometimes that's just how it goes. But the fact is that it's never the circumstances that determine success in your life. It is how you deal with those circumstances. I remember that, I was homeless 24 years ago, and I learned a very, very painful lesson about debt. Like, For some reason, I thought those credit cards were free money, and I just went hog wild, charging them up to, about $25,000. Then I married a guy I only knew for 7 days, and he racked it up another 10, something like that. And I had this $35,000 worth of debt. Oh, $2.03 to my name. It was painful. It was really, really, really embarrassing, humiliating, painful. I wanted to die. So then I make my first million. I then get married to a young man, and he had not yet learned the debt lesson. He had not learned that suffering. And so he, in the later 90s, wanted to go into all this debt to be able to play with the stocks and become an investor. And, so he kind of hawked one of my cars that I had paid cash for and put us $22,000 in debt there. And instead of paying cash for the Suburban that we were buying, because, we had this huge family, I think baby number 4 was on its way. And so we needed, baby number 5 actually was on its way. And so we needed a bigger vehicle. And, he's like, we're going to finance it. And then he bought this other car that he financed. So we had like a lot. $100,000 right there, right? 60, 20, 40, more, $120,000 just in car debt, not to mention the giant houses that we were buying. And, here I'm like, oh, I'm not really comfortable with this. That's kind of where Alicia found herself after they were insatiable. They were buying houses, property, cars. They lose their son. First of all, Alicia, that is crazy painful. How old was your son?
He was 1 year and 3.5 months.
Oh.
In and out of the hospital, yeah.
Oh my gosh. Was that your only child?
No, we had an older child, and then now we have 3 more. So 4, 5. I had 5 babies total and 1 in heaven.
Oh, wow, Mama. Wow, that's wild. So you lost everything. You lost the house, the property, the cars, everything after the death, the tragic death of a baby. Now, why did you lose everything after the death?
Because my husband was drinking every night, drowning his grief. Pain. And it just, we went downhill from there. Wow.
Man, and you know what? We never know, right? Look, that was part of the journey, losing your son. God wanted to take that son to be with him sooner. And so we never planned for things like that, right? And
right,
you guys were making all of this money and still were not satisfied, spending all of this money, never realizing that a season, a winter season, like the one you suffered through, was on the horizon. And there will be another winter season coming as well. Maybe not the same kind, but come on. You've been on the planet long enough to know that winter comes, right?
Right.
Even if you live in Texas. The state with the perfect weather. I love the weather in Texas, especially where I live. But anyway, so you guys lose it all. Your husband, his way of medicating his deep, deep sorrow, grieving, mourning, and pain was drinking. So that obviously spent a lot of money and was not very productive. So you lost it all.
Yeah, he wasn't managing. And I kept telling him, everything that's coming in is going out and then some. And I had been telling him, but, he was out of it.
Wow.
He was there, but he wasn't really checked in.
What's going on now?
Well, we kind of did it again. He didn't learn the lesson. And we ended up buying property again, kind of getting in over our heads as well. And I was opposed to it, but there was, to honor him, we had a big, long discussion with parents involved and everything, but it didn't. He was going through with it no matter what.
And by the way, spending is another form of medicating our pain.
Right.
It's another addiction.
And kept thinking, well, when I get this, I'll be happy. When I get that, that never-ending, never fulfilling, the emptiness that you were talking about earlier.
Yep.
And we found out that doesn't work, because once he got here, he was on the couch for 3 months. He got himself out, and then a few years later, we're back in the same situation. And last year, we ended up, we had gone to one of your, we've been going over the last 5-6 years, but we heard your story about letting go of your house.
Yeah.
And we felt called to do it, but then my parents stepped in, saved the day. It's going to be an early inheritance, all this stuff, which was not quite the case. But So we kept it another year, and and I wrote a book as well. And after that came out is when he just hit rock bottom. He was okay with letting it come out, but I think bringing it to light just really, and so we kind of went out into the desert, I guess you'd say.
Yep.
And this last year we've been, I don't know, we've lived in like 12 or 13, 3 or 4 different places.
Oh my
and God
gosh.
has just provided. We just stepped out on faith, and he's just, practicing that obedience.
Yes.
And he's totally provided for us. So.
Yes. Man, you know what? It's heartbreaking. And it's, first of all, I really appreciate your transparency and your humility, because what a story to tell. You know what I mean? And what a hard thing to endure. But at the same time, this is really a testimony, and I hope that people get this. There is a price to pay for disobedience. And God is always working things in our background to protect us from failing to a painful place. Meaning, there's some trials that we go through that He ordains purposely to refine something out of us so that we come out more pure, better leaders, better lovers, better spouses, better workers, better financial people, better parents. That some of these trials we come through them, and it's to teach us something. We learn wisdom through experience. That's how we learn. And when we've experienced something, no one can argue with us that it's not real. It's just, right? Like somebody could tell you that, childbirth ain't no big thing. You're like, shut up. I've done it 5 times. It's a really big thing. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
So somebody on the outside can look at giving birth as like, this just happens and that just happens. You have fun with that. You'll be screaming your brains out too, you sucker. Anyway, so, but you know by experience, no one can tell you what the experience of giving birth is, because you know the experience of giving birth. So you've experienced this journey of disobedience instead of obedience. And you've paid the price for it. And that price has now put you in a place of, I will obey, and I will obey fast. And that's what my painful disobedience was too, because God tried to tell us to shrink our lifestyle all the way back in 1997. We didn't listen. In fact, we increased our lifestyle. He then told us again, we increased our lifestyle again. And he told us again, and we increased our lifestyle again. And now we're $1 million in debt. Fighting all the time, under so much pressure. And now I have this fatal heart condition and can't work. So it's like he comes to a point where it's like, all right, you're going to deal with your own consequences. I'm trying to prevent you from dealing with consequences. I'm trying to help. It's just like, it's just like with our kids. Loving parents are like, you really don't want to touch that stove. You really need to step away. It's hot oil on the stove. You really need to step away. Bam, the chicken pops in the oil. Kid gets burned. I tried to tell you. That's how I see the Father in heaven. He's trying to tell us, but we have a tendency of not listening. This is Dani Johnson. We'll continue with more right after this.
Be sure to tell a friend about the Dani Johnson Show. It just might be the key to the breakthrough they need.
Friend, you know me. You know how passionate I am about my faith and the land of Israel. I'm so excited to tell you about something directly from the Holy Land. A good friend in Israel has teamed up with a good friend here in the U.S. to bring an incredible product that harnesses the healing power of the Dead Sea. Have you heard about Mud Zero? Face it, we may not like to talk about it, but some of us need help with removing unwanted hair, especially in unwanted places. Mud Zero is a solution for all skin types for men and women. Rub the mask on your skin, let it sit for 5 minutes, wipe it off, and you have smooth skin without the irritation. Then follow it up with a Depi lotion daily to reduce hair growth by up to 50%. Best of all, you can feel good knowing that over 10% of the profits goes directly to King's Ransom to feed the orphan and the widow. Go right now to mudzero.com and take advantage of an introductory offer they've created just for us. mudzero.com. For families in Santa Pancha, Nicaragua, life is filled with fear and struggle. They don't have enough food for their kids, clean water is hard to find, and they're living in a decrepit, unsafe hovel on top of mining tunnels that could explode and sink at any moment. But a miracle is in the making, and you can be a part of transforming this village. Go to kingsransom.org and click on Santa Pancha to see how you can help. That's kingsransom.org, kingsransom.org, and click on Santa Pancha.
So what's keeping you stuck? It's time to get it out of your way for good. This is the Dani Johnson Show.
Being hard-headed always comes with consequences. And really, the simplest road to success is pretty well an obedient straight line. I believe that there is a God in heaven who loves you, who adores you, and wants to see you succeed. And I believe that he is constantly reaching out to you to guide you along a path that's going to lead you to a blessed life. Even a life that when we do encounter those winter seasons, those sufferings, those hurricanes, those economic earthquakes that happen to us, they are by design to help refine us, strengthen us, raise us up to be better leaders, better parents, better community people. And so even in the hard stuff, he's there putting in wisdom and giving us great experiences so that we can become a people that are a light on a hill for all the world to see, and that they will praise him for the good works they see you and I do. There's another path, and that path is disobedience. That path is filled with greed. That path is filled with being hard-headed. That path is being filled with putting things as high priorities in your life that are going to suffocate your life instead of living your life in love, loving people, loving God, and working diligently with our hands so that we might bear good fruit from the work that our hands are actually producing. We live in a messed up society, don't we? A messed up society that says in order for you to be successful, you got to win somehow a lottery ticket or marry the right person. That's a bunch of hooey. I know this. He will bless the work of your hands as long as your hands are working. As long as your hands are working with excellence and diligence, you're going to be blessed. I highlight this in a book that I'd love to give you. If this is your very first time listening in today, First Steps to Wealth. I'd love to give you a copy of it. Skill set after skill set, strategy after strategy, principle after principle, wisdom after wisdom, things that I've learned through experiencing bad things and good things, and found a final copy, if you will, a formula, a recipe that has really, really worked with handling hard times and good times and creating more good times. I'd love to give you a copy of this right now. If you call our office, 866-760-8255. Again, that's 866-760-8255. Ask for Nate. He'd be happy to send this copy to you immediately. He can send you the ebook right now. If you want the physical copy, you can go ahead and you pay for the shipping and handling. We'll pay for the $15 book. I think that's a fair deal. Lastly, earlier in the show, remember I was handling that objection that the wealthy are greedy. And I was telling you about a trip to Nicaragua that we're taking because we've just finished 40 brand new homes that were built by some of you. People that are amazing people in the marketplace who are putting purpose to money. And they are helping to build brand new homes for the homeless and the extreme, and I mean extreme poor in Santa Pancha, Nicaragua. I'd love for you to go to the site and check this out. If you go to kingsransom.org, again, that's kingsransom.org, right on the home page, it's a big giant picture of a little girl. Click right there, Santa Pancha, Nicaragua, and check out all the people that are involved with this project. So many business people and teachers and even children that are campaigning because it only costs $5,200 to build a brand new house for a person who doesn't have food, water, or shelter. You can make a difference and change a life today by going over to kingsransom.org. That's it for us today. God bless you, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.
This has been the Dani Johnson Show. Did you hear that last segment? Do you know someone else who needs to hear it? Go to DaniJohnson.com, find today's show, and share it online.
This is your chance. This is your shot. Get your copy of War on Debt right now. There's one waiting for you that has your family's name on it. And inside that package is freedom. Your family's freedom is on the inside of that package. All you have to do is open it up, press play, and start applying what I teach you in this program. 888-757-8880. You and I are going to help your family become completely debt-free in the next 5 to 7 years. Just imagine how that's going to feel.